So you play Sheldon's brother and sister in the series. I mean, because of this, the Big Bang Theory has got such a long running history and a big fan base. Was it kind of like a bit of a pressure there for you to make sure that this basically sat up there with that?
Well, honestly, I never watched The Big Bang Theory, so I didn't really look at it to see what. Well, Georgie wasn't on The Big Bang Theory, so it's not really like I'd get anything from it if I did watch it.
And I feel like the same like with Montana. Missy was only on the Big Bang Theory once when Young Sheldon aired. So I feel like I didn't have any pressure with that. So it was like easy for us to kind of make up our own character, and we didn't have to like look up at anything.
Well, they certainly didn't put any pressure on us much to match up anything. But of course, Iain had some tutoring sessions with Mr. Jim Parsons, so I think that was helpful. But there wasn't. I think for the most part, of course, June Squibb has appeared as Meemaw several times on Big Bang, but they didn't even suggest that I needed to do anything. 30 years has passed, so a lot can happen in 30 years. You could look like an entirely different person.
I mean, I think going into this, we knew we were in quite a privileged position, being connected to Big Bang Theory, which is an amazing juggernaut, as well it should be, and the pressure of that, I think, was to not disappoint fans. We know there was a lot to live up to. I mean, they've come to know and love Sheldon, obviously, and so I guess knowing that my character has already been established on that show, I definitely want to make sure I was in the same ballpark as my mother. But what I think has been so wonderful that our writers have done and so smart is they've really carved out a special moment in time with this family, and one in which that I think my character, I can speak for her, hopefully, that she is at a different stage of life. Her life experience is different. She has a different set of priorities, raising 3 young children. And so we're introduced to her in a different way. She's kind of a different Mary Cooper than I think Big Bang fans have come to know and love.
Yeah. But how freeing is it to just be able to create this character from scratch?
It's great. I mean,
it's easy. It's easier than having to copy something.
That's right. And, it's great to be in, although me in real life is me and Georgie are sort of have some things in common.
Like he plays football, and Georgie plays football.
Yeah. And I feel like...
And they both have a messy bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
His is more messy.
Yeah, probably.
As boys always have messy bedrooms.
Oh, yeah.
In Big Bang Theory, we're led to believe that Meemaw was some kind of angel, but she's
she is.
But but in Young Sheldon, she's not quite as the angel that she's painted to be. I mean, is that quite fun that you can go wherever you want with that character?
Yes, it is. I mean, we're not married to anything that happened in Big Bang much, I think. But it is nice to come in and already have, they've been, doing a drum roll for 11 years on how adorable and, important she is to Sheldon. So that's really nice. It's like, then she gets to make her entrance. It's like, wow. Yes.
I mean, and you've both got connections. Obviously, you've already mentioned yours with the Big Bang Theory as well. I'm playing your mother, a younger version of your mother. Yeah. I mean, did she at all? Did Laurie actually give you any kind of tips, or did she just like you?
She gave me a wonderful tip before I went into audition. She said, trust that the humor will be on the page. Those writers are genius, and it's basically foolproof. She was like, all you need to do is really just try to ground the rest in reality. And beyond, I think, that being a great actor note, I think it's especially true for our show because, we're working with these young talents who are very much, natural, their ages, very present in scenes, and so, I think it's on us to try and make those relationships as realistic as possible.
And because of those things, it's kind of easy to.
Yes.
I mean, we bring that to the set, I think, in character, because we're doing it in person.
Yes.
There's a dynamic there of young people and older people, for sure.
Yeah.
Jim Parsons at all? Did you work closely with him at all to try and develop?
No, me and Raegan didn't. Of course, it's normally with Iain and himself.
They Iain usually goes to Jim Parsons for advice.
Yeah.
But we usually go to the producers if we needed like tips and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. Why do you always just say that's right? He never even says a full sentence. He's like, that's right.
And
Nice.
Iain, obviously, coming in as Sheldon is some big feat actually, because he's probably one of the best characters in the show. And how much of the show Big Bang Theory did you watch before coming into Young Sheldon?
It's not really aimed at my audience level, so I haven't really watched it. But I did watch a few clips, and as Miss Annie was saying, I got the tutoring with Mr. Jim, so
So you get to bond with Jim quite a bit.
I've got all the Sheldon, all the backstage Sheldon info.
And yourself in the Big Bang Theory, there was one episode where you actually played when Leonard was bullied at school.
I got to be on the Big Bang Theory a number
was that
of
a little
years
bit?
ago.
Yeah, is that a little bit weird?
It's not weird for me. I found it to be a good acting challenge. My hope was that I could make people not see that I was Leonard, the bully, and fully invest and appreciate that I'm a completely different thing in this other show. And I hope I've pulled that off for some of the fans expressed online their inability to suspend their disbelief of that. And I hope I found it a challenge to hopefully win them over. But
I think you have. You're a very good actor. Still a bully.
still a bully, which is why I got the role.
Of course. Even though it's in the older Sheldon refers to his brother and sister as mouth-breathing idiots, I sort of think that a little bit of George, but I think Missy is a lot more intelligent than he makes out to be.
Yes, I agree with you.
I mean,
I feel like Missy is like you said, smart, but in like her own way. But she doesn't get recognized for it because she lives with a genius. Like Missy is
more
like
street smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
like she's smart with like being social because she has like a lot like friends. She can make friends really easily, and she's not like Sheldon because Sheldon, he's not good at making friends because he's like really, he always wants to talk about like science and stuff. Not that that's bad, it's just sometimes I feel like it could get tiring to talk about the same thing every time.
I mean, on the set of Young Sheldon, does he play a big part as well in giving you advice and?
Not really, because he's gone back to Big Bang, and so now we're kind of our own thing. As Sheldon might say, the atom has split. We had Big Bang, that was one atom, then it split into two, and now both the atoms are growing back. Well, Big Bang has already grown back
Because we don't know Sheldon's father at all anyway, how freeing is that to be able to, develop that character from scratch?
I feel like I had a little bit more freedom than Zoe did in regards to the choices I made, and I got to take, as we both do, we take from the script.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, very much
The
so.
producers and wonderful writers give us everything that we need to work from. Of course, there's a history that we have to consider, and there were things online and from the show that I was aware of about Sheldon's dad. But when I read the script, I realized how different this was going to be, and that the perspective was going to be different. This is the perspective of an older Sheldon as well, I think, who is looking at his parents in a different light for the first time, like we all do when we get older and wiser. And so I had the freedom of that, knowing that this is a new vision of who these people were.
How much fun is there playing these parts? I mean, obviously, I watched the episode where you hijacked the car to go and visit your dad in the hospital.
Oh yeah, that was like the third episode. I think it was
Yeah,
the
I
third
think so.
episode.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. We actually did that on a green screen. He wasn't even driving.
No.
We'll lay
like-
behind the car.
I
behind the wheel.
So I wasn't that familiar with green screens at the time when we started the thing. So I thought he was actually going to be driving, and I was like, "What?"
I'm a good driver.
Dialogue in there even sometimes has me stumped, obviously, with the scientific speech and everything. I mean, is that quite hard for you to get around?
And here near apogee, we gimbal the engine to exert a torque which executes a pitch-over maneuver to flip the rocket by 180 degrees. Needless to say, we use a PID controller to minimize the dispersions to the landing site.
Yeah, sorry, I was lost on
I have no idea what I just said.
But you said it very well, and that's all that matters.
You just have to pretend you know what you're saying, and it makes it all better.
That's what we actors do. Just pretend we know what we're saying.
Just pretend we know what we're doing.
Being set in the 80s as well, but it's also got it's got kind of a different tone to the Big Bang Theory. I think it's a little bit more tender, and it's quite reminiscent of the Wonder Years as well. I mean, how important do you think that is for giving it, establishing it as with that its own identity?
I think it's imperative.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was so smart and I think bold of our executive producers to make this a single camera comedy. Because yes, they did very much want it, I think, to exist as its own entity. And it allows us some, quieter moments, some more tender, intimate moments that I think lends itself greatly to the heart of our show.
And I think it's proved a brilliant choice. It was a gamble, undoubtedly, for the producers to do that.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
But the reaction and the fact that I personally have heard from people that say they weren't Big Bang Theory watchers, but they love our show.
Yeah.
And so it is standing on its own to some degree.
Yeah.
The series is set in the 80s. I mean, obviously, neither of you were born in that time. What was the most shocking part of the 80s that you learned?
A Walkman.
Yeah, we learned what a Walkman was. We liked those things.
Never learned. I never even knew what they were called.
No.
And then someone told me, I think it was like a fire fluffer, but it's like you blow, like you pump this thing to make the fire go bigger. Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called, fire fluffer?
I don't know what it's called myself, but I know what you mean.
Outfits.
Oh yeah, the outfits.
Those are
they're different.
They're
Yeah,
interesting. Like a lot of like Missy's pajamas, they're some like made out of wool. So they're always itchy.
Oh, yeah.
So it's always like, oh my gosh, costumes people. They will like give me like little shirts and stuff to put under it, so it's not itchy. And they'll give me like pants. And if like the pant like under the pajamas is too long, they'll like cut the pant leg of the pants under the pajamas. So then they do stuff to make us comfortable, and they're very nice about that.
Obviously, it's based on Young Sheldon, and it's quite spooky how many of his characteristics that you can actually portray, but you have your own little character as well. He's not quite developed into the Sheldon we know. I mean, how difficult is it to get into Sheldon's head?
He is kind of different from our beloved older Sheldon because he's kind of a bit different in the sense that he's more vulnerable. He hasn't quite found his footing in the world yet. So older Sheldon is a bit more confident in himself and his abilities, and knows what he can do, and is a bit more kind of sassy, and it feels free to do that kind of thing. But Sheldon is kind of cautious, still kind of finding his footing. So he is different.
And working with Iain as well, what's that been like for you? Is he quite as eccentric on behind the scenes as in front of it?
I wouldn't say eccentric, but I think he's exceptional.
Yeah.
He's a super bright kid to be able to do the things that he's doing,
Yeah.
and a super talented kid.
Yeah.
But he is unlike Sheldon in a lot of ways. He is a gregarious young man. I don't know if you've met him.
Yes, I have.
But he
Yes, I
doesn't
have.
lack any social ability whatsoever.
Yeah, very true.
Which again, it only behooves him in the role.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
he's a phenomenal actor to be able to play something so different than he is, for sure.
Yeah.
Basically, what you play is young Sheldon. You're a child.
That's why it's called Young Sheldon, not Big Sheldon.
Before he's developed. Okay, and obviously the show's set in the 80s. For you, what was the most shocking thing that you've learned from the 80s? Obviously, because you weren't born.
The size of those computers. I mean, what was up with that? They were That's bigger than my room at home. I could take a nap in there. If you cleared out all the weird 80s electronic stuff from the inside, I could sleep in that thing. All I need is a stuffed animal, and I could easily fit that in there.
And Annie, yourself as well. I mean, from the 80s, I always think of Pretty in Pink, and I think of you from in that as well. I mean, is it quite weird going back to the 80s in an older form?
Yes. I think, you know, it's a little cruel to have to relive those clothes again because they're not very attractive.
Yeah.
You'd think we would have known then. We'd been, this is terrible. Who would put this on? But yes, we're revisiting that. It's fun and a little odd.
Okay, well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's your bangle.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,